Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. Well, today we are reviewing the new cigar, one of the new cigars from Crown Heads. Let's put it that way. This is the new Four Kicks Mule Kick Limited Edition 2019. Now, this cigar is a 5 7/8 by 52 Toro, released in 10 count boxes, and is the fourth installment of its limited edition Four Kicks Mule Kick series. This will be the first of the Four Kicks Mule Kicks LE 2019 series to feature an Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper. These are blended and made in the EP Carrillo factory. John Huber, co-founder of Crown Heads, commented that they always maintain that Ernesto Perez Carrillo Jr., is the master of the Sumatra wrapper. And once they smoked the samples, they immediately knew that the Sumatra wrapper added another dimension of flavor and layer of complexity to the Mule Kick blend. So, how about that? The cigar is nice looking. Features I think that should look familiar from last year's version, 2019 here, and Crown Heads at the foot. There is your density. Has about an average feel for a cigar of 5 7/8. Couldn't go that extra eighth. All right, so let's get right to it. The new Four Kicks Mule Kick Limited Edition 2019. All righty, let's take this little bandit foot off. I like it when those come off easy, and it did. Crown Heads. Okay. Now we can really look at the cigar. What do you think? Pretty good draw. I think we can deal with it. To use the perfect draw or to not use the perfect draw? That is the question. Well, your first flavors are sort of a sweet cedar. There are also some apple influences: brown sugar, cinnamon, almond butter, which I think leads into a leather type flavor. So what I'm going to say is almond butter and light leather. Is that not weird? And an earthy black coffee. You get sweetness from the apple, from the brown sugar, and that's it. You know what? There's also nutmeg in the mix. Wow, big surprise being Nicaraguan. The almond butter leading into a light leather is a bit odd, even for my reviews. But that is exactly what it is. So I would say it's black pepper at about 7.5. That's how you start. Interesting, albeit different start. here at the first third, and we're getting a pretty good burn time. Flavors have settled down and changed a bit for the better. The cedar on the front end is really sort of tangy now, much like a lot of orange citrus influence. You still have that apple flavor in the mix also. Nutmeg quickly follows that. There is brown sugar and cinnamon to give a little more interest and sweetness to the cigar. The almond butter seems to have waned, but the light leather is still there, and an earthy black coffee holds the base. Cigar is medium bodied at this point. I expect and hope it gets fuller. The finish has sweetness on it. There is nutmeg. There's actually like a little residue of that apple on the finish, and some nice lingering black pepper. Going glacially slow as I do when I do a review, probably slower than you do when you smoke it in the real world, the flavors are really very nice. For the first third, I like this cigar. I'm rating it 93. First third, 93. So that is a pretty good benchmark. Let's see where we go from here. Well, here we are at the end of the second third, and the cigar is changing. This time, not for the better. The cedary, sort of appleish, citrusy flavor is still there with some brown sugar and cinnamon, but remember that almond butter that I thought went away? It came back in a big way. There's massive amounts, along with nutmeg, that quickly follow and almost engulf the sweeter flavors. Not entirely, but it's a drastic change from the way the first third panned out. There is still the very light leather and an earthy coffee. The cigar is moving up toward medium to full, but I don't really think it's made it all the way there yet. The finish by and large is unchanged. There's a little more nutmeg on the finish now. Personally, I wasn't a fan of this change. I liked it the way it was. So for the second third, I'm lowering it to 91 in hopes that we're not going to stay on that trajectory. But the cigar did change. And that's why we do it in thirds, just to point out what happens. And this is a good example. Well, we're down to the end, so let's wrap it up. I was saying one thing about this cigar. It is sort of complex because it changes often. Here at the end, in the final third, it's a different animal almost altogether. Very light cedar and apple influence, no citrus. Very light brown sugar, lower than average cinnamon, quasi average nutmeg, off the chart black coffee with underlying leather. It is so heavy with coffee right now. Medium to full body, leaning toward full body. In this last segment, it's made a huge jump in power and strength. The finish is one of coffee and nutmeg. Really no sweetness to talk about. Decent lingering black pepper. The pepper was never an issue with this cigar. It was good, the entire time. But what a change in this final third from the second third. It's amazing. And before you ask, they've been sitting for almost 2 months. So that's not an issue. It's just the way the cigar is blended. It's blended in such a way that it starts one way and changes all throughout. And why you wind up with a very dark noted cigar. Didn't start that way at all, but boy, did it finish that way. For the final third, I'm lowering the score to 88. If I can be honest with you for a minute, last year's Mule Kick was much better, in my opinion, than this cigar. No offense to the Carrillos, because they make good cigars. It's just, hey, everything appeals to people differently. This one did not appeal overly to me. Your overall score is 90.67. And I believe that's fair because it is a good cigar in a lot of aspects, but the final third really did it in for me. So there you have it. The new Crowned Heads 4 Kicks Mule Kick Limited Edition 2019. 90.67.